Welcome to this historiographical writing workshop, How to Evaluate a Scholarly Article. My name is Melinda Klein. Welcome to this writing workshop video. The purpose of this video is to offer an instructional overview. As you will see in the next few minutes, I will take you through a sectional evaluation of a scholarly article. In this class, you will be asked to read 3 scholarly articles that support your learning and also serve another important purpose. By analyzing a secondary source for its thesis and structure, this will help you later when it comes time for you to write your argument style paper. Once you're able to see your article as it's structured, this is going to make it much easier for you to identify what's going on, not only in this article, but later in your work as well. A good scholarly article introduction includes a series of parts, and as you will be able to determine through the course of your own work and through viewing this video, I want you to be able to identify the components of the author's introduction, an important feature of the article itself. Secondly, and maybe more importantly, you also need to determine the structure of the study's 3 parts, and we're going to go through these one by one. To follow the story, what we like to call the analysis of the article, you have to be able to identify its themes that the author used in the study to support and convince the reader, you, of the history presented. Scholarly articles contain 3 features. The first is the introduction. The second feature, which dominates the article, is the body of analysis. And then at the end of the article, you will find the author's conclusion. In an article, an author usually has something to say about their methods. Maybe their methods are a little bit different than what's been done in the past. Maybe they're using different sources that other historians have ignored or decided were unimportant and didn't want to use them. But usually a historian offers some indication about the methods that they're going to use in their study, and we call this methodology. As you can see here, I have listed 2 types of sources. One is called a primary source, and the second is called a secondary source. While it's unlikely that you can read the words on the document that I have included on this slide, what is important is to understand that sources like this, written at the time, this particular document here has to do with a dispute over inheritance. A father had died what we call interstate. The heirs had to go to court. They needed a final judgment on inheritance. So this is an example of a primary source. Without a will, the distribution of land and wealth had to be overseen by the court. Such documents written at the time may include personal diaries, letters, newspaper articles, advertisements. There's a variety of primary sources, not only published publicly, but there's also government ones as well. Secondary sources evaluate not only primary sources, but other secondary sources as well. These could be published as books or, like what you have here, a journal article, and some of them may be quite old. Scholarly publications offer cited evidence. This could take the form of footnotes, as you can see in an article that you might be looking at right now, or in books. It might be footnotes, or it might be cited evidence that is listed in the back of the book, which we would call endnotes. As I've listed here on the bottom of this slide, when citing evidence and when offering a bibliography, In history, we use what's called Chicago style. On this slide, I've offered a few questions that I'd like you to think about. What is an introduction? What is the purpose of an introduction? What are the core features of a good journal article introduction? As indicated on this draft version drawn on a piece of paper, it clearly indicates that a good introduction contains a series of parts. Therefore, as you can tell, the purpose and intent of an introduction is to offer not only solid background and purpose to the paper itself, but to indicate some items that I have listed here that are usually contained in a good introduction. All right, in a good introduction, what do I have first? And this should appear in the order that I have listed. An overview of time and place, background and history that the study does concern. And this would be followed by comments regarding the study sources, such as the materials they're going to be using, and perhaps they indicated the method in which they're going to proceed in the study. A good introduction might have a part of a story included in it. It might include some more background information. And then, of course, a historian might comment on other works that have already been published on the topic already, and perhaps what they are going to do and how their work contributes and why it is different. At the end of the introduction, you will find what the author is claiming that their study is going to illustrate or show. We call this an argument. It may also be called a thesis, but it needs to be clearly stated and usually has themes or chronology attached to it. After the author has stated their position and offered an argument, they also have to conclude this argument with why this history is important. The largest part of a good journal article is the body of analysis. It's going to be in this section that the author supports what they intended to show as listed in their argument found in the introduction. Well, as an undergraduate in the class that I am teaching this semester, and of course I want you to read the journal article for its history, what I want you to do also is to be able to evaluate what's going on, what's being said, and how the storyline moves along. The best way to get a grasp on what's happening in an article that you're reading is to identify the themes in the topic sentences. And then, of course, these themes are going to be followed by examples, and the paragraph is going to end up with a sum statement. I think what we need here is an example. Let's say that you are reading a journal article about the sea voyage experiences of colonists coming to North America. And let's suppose that your author wanted to illustrate, for example, that the sea voyage experience could be deadly. For example, maybe there was a lot of disease and dying that was happening on the long sea voyage from Europe to the Americas. After the introduction, the author is going to offer a variety of themes to illustrate that sea voyage transportation could be very risky, and this would be done through a series of themes analyzed and supported with cited examples. In the introduction, the author had offered the scope of his work and the themes that he would analyze. In this section, the body of analysis, the author would continue his themed analysis, or hers, until they were complete with the study. So when are you complete? When are you finished? Well, as a historian myself, basically when you don't have anything else to contribute and you feel you are completely done with that particular topic. So in this section, what I'd like you to do first is go through and read all the topic sentences. Glance through the cited information contained in each paragraph and keep going until you get towards the end of the article and you can identify the transition paragraph from the analysis that's going to begin the conclusion section of the article. The last few paragraphs of your article should indicate to you that the conclusion, using clear language, is getting ready to start. There are words that clearly indicate to readers that the conclusion is getting ready to begin. The author may offer as a topic sentence something like, "As you have read in this 18th century study," or something like, "In this study I have shown blah blah blah." But the topic sentence feels different and reads different than it did in the analysis. A good conclusion is going to summarize what the author did in the study, such as offering the themes and the implication of those themes and what he showed or she showed as far as history. In this section, this is where you really want to all tie it together. Just to go back to the topic I was mentioning a few minutes ago about sea transportation during the colonial period. Well, maybe you want to tie in, or you want to have something to say that because of poor diet and poor ship conditions and maybe starvation that resulted, that colonists and settlers that did arrive here were in poor condition and had to experience additional hardships on top of that. That would be a type of concluding statement or concluding thought that you would want to include at this part of your journal article or the paper that you're going to be writing a little bit later on. You want to connect your thoughts. It's very important here, and this is where you want to do it. One of the final points that might be included in a conclusion is a comment by the historian regarding future work or additional research that needs to be done on this particular topic that was written on in this study. As you can see here, I have listed some points that I would like you to remember that target the purpose of this video and why you're reading these journal articles. By being able to identify the structure and purpose of a journal article, you have learned a valuable skill, as I've listed here. And of course, as a reminder, the articles chosen for you to read and analyze for structure, writing style, and content not only are by different authors, but these articles provided have been selected on the following 3 merits. First is how the study that I'm asking you to read relates to this class. Secondly, the author's ability to present a well-written scholarly work, followed by soundness of logic, and that the study was interesting to read. The skills learned in the workshops for this class will enable you to write a well-analyzed argument-style paper, established in a logical order, set in a convincing style, and hopefully interesting to read. Thank you for watching this video. This is Melinda Klein.